What is going on, everybody? Ryan Leary here with the You Should Know podcast. I've got two guests on today. We've got Steph and Prem on, both from Humanly and HiringBranch. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Prem, we know we're doing well. Doesn't seem like Steph is very happy about Argentina. It blew my mind that after 100 and whatever it was, 20 some minutes, they had like one shot on goal. The entire, and I just thought to myself, wouldn't it suck if Spain, I don't know the goalie's name for Spain, one shot got through on one shot and they lost.
Yeah, and it was a good shot too. And it was a great shot. Yeah, it was a great shot.
But could you imagine 130 minutes, whatever it was, one shot and you missed
one shot.
And that's
it. Can't, yeah. And I was thinking that, of course, Spain dominated, deserved to win, outplayed Argentina, but imagine going to shootout and Messi really winning it all after, 90 minutes plus the overtime. That would have been,
I'm still trying to understand. This is how basic I am with this. I'm still trying to understand. You have regular time, you have extra, I guess it's stop time or stoppage time or whatever, and then you've got extra time, and I can't quite figure that out because it just feels like the ref wants to just wait until play stops, and it's like it seems like a good time to stop, and then they stop. It's confusing to me, but I'm getting there. I did get into it, but I also did get into. I watched a few golf things this past week, which I've never watched golf. I never even held it. I mean, putt is as much as I've done, and it that felt interesting to me. So I think I might be changing as I age, but so we're not here to talk about that though. We're here to talk about AI. And AI interviews and skills assessments, and why the best high volume hiring stacks are using both. And so, what two better people to have on a call to talk about this than the two of you? So, if you guys are good with it, I think we should just jump right in. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good. Sounds great.
All right. So let's do this. I want to, Prem, let's kick off with you on this one. So high volume hiring teams they're buried in applicants, but they always struggle to make good hires. This is nothing new. We know this. What's actually broken in that traditional process that prevents people from making good hires quickly?
Yeah, and I'll be brief. Unless you're adding stoppage time to this podcast. No, dad joke alert. All right. So yeah, right now in high volume, you have companies, Fortune 500 companies paying hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. It adds up to billions to attract job seekers in. So this is job ads, this is recruitment marketing. And then you're only able to engage with about 5%. So you're paying a lot of money only to ignore 95% of people that raise their hand. So I think tools like AI interviewing, and not all are created equal, at their best can be really good at engaging large scales of people and understanding the 100%, not just the 5. So speed is big. Knowing enough about someone to assess them and know they also want to be here. They're not going to turn over after a week. Is really important. There's been a lot of focus on efficiency and speed for good reason, but experience is really important too. And I think that's one thing I can chat about a little bit, but I think it's a problem of engaging at scale and then processing people in a quality way very quickly. And that causes a lot of money spent and pipelines for the next hire not built. The other thing with a lot of high volume roles, particularly frontline, is a lot of our customers' product is their people. So if someone is out sick or if someone leaves, every hour without that person, you're losing money, your brand's hurt. So there's a need to be fully staffed continually. So those are some of the problems. Retention's very tough, especially in the first week, first 30 days, first 90 days in high volume.
Right. Steph, I'd like to get your take on that as well. What are you seeing that's preventing the good hires from coming through?
Yeah, I think, once we get past like the top of the funnel, as Prem is talking about, is like really having the hiring for the right skills. And sometimes what is more difficult to evaluate is actually their human skills, soft skills. You're
Right.
talking about the front line. These are the people talking to your customers, and in large corporations, like 70 to 80% of your workforce is like customer facing. And making
Hmm.
sure that they can deal with difficult questions and difficult answers or upselling, whatever they may be. So really we see that like, and if you can improve that really, niche part of that hiring process, then you'll get
Yeah.
better outcomes.
Yeah. Well, one of the it's an interesting points so one of the conversations that we've been having with a lot of people recently has been around AI interviewers and where that line of demarcation is from. Where does the AI interview end, and then where do we begin to do validation? Like where do we then make that pass that baton? So let's Steph, let's start with you on this one. Where does where do you see that line at where the AI interviewing ends, and then we must move into skills validation?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great examples. Like Hilton is one of them. L'Oreal is another great example where they're using the AI interviewer really at the top of the funnel and getting people quickly. Like to Prem's point, like you're spending a lot of money trying to attract people, so you need to get them quickly. And where we
Hmm.
see is that you've really got that speed, that efficiency, that orchestration level, and then where we feel that is afterwards is that the assessment level is really you're really digging deep to that carrot. It's really the qualification layer, like the very, very, very granular qualification layer. So as a system, it works really well. And these large corporations and many of our customers, this is exactly how they're laying out their hiring stack.
Right. So, Prem, I want to build on that because I know you've got this is where kind of where you focus on the AI interviewer side. I'm sure you get this all the time. Is an AI interviewer as good as a human interviewer? What can it really determine? What can it really decipher about a candidate? So I want you to kind of walk us through that a little bit. What can an AI interview reliably determine about a candidate?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying I think with 95% of applicants being ignored, you're talking about it's not AI versus human, it's AI versus not hearing anything
Yeah.
back in many
Yeah,
cases.
95% that number now?
Yeah, yeah.
Good lord.
People coming inbound, not, and when I say ignore it, they might get a generic ATS message or something like that. And I
Mhm,
think in high volume too, it's not just about filling the role in front of you. It's about engaging with enough people, or you have a pipeline for the next role, for the next role.
mhm,
To answer your question, I think we agree that if there is 100 people that applied, having a conversation with each of those people would be you'd learn more and be able to get to mutual match in a better way in the next steps and before you go deeply versus using how we're ignoring the 95% generally is still 4 keyword sets on 2 pieces of paper. So does the profile have the words that match the job
mhm,
description to oversimplify. So if we can agree we're talking to everyone is better and how we're choosing who we talk to is flawed, then getting everyone into some experience might not be as good as a full face to face with a human, but you're now touching everyone and you're also letting them screen the company in or out. So in a two-way form. So that's one thing. We do find across our channels, so we'll have AI interviewing for some scenarios, chat,
mhm,
SMS. The AI interviewer is learning the most about someone versus SMS chatbot. It's about the same amount of we measure the words the candidate's saying, and they'll answer a question with about 201 words, about the same, in some cases a little bit higher than human to human. So you're understanding more about them.
mm,
They're again, not all of these experiences are created equal. So some leave people frustrated. Some But if done right, I do think you can learn quite a bit more to then go into
Yeah.
like a deeper evaluation, like a skills assessment. And I think one issue with all of this is just engagement, and it's you're probably not gonna have all 100 people go through an assessment right away. So you're at least bring them in, and then maybe they don't
Yeah.
proceed, but you can get them in the next job.
Yeah. Go back for a minute. So 201 words. Tell me more about that. I like that. I like that you're tracking that. So what you're saying is that the average answer is 201 words when being interviewed through AI.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. So there's couple things here where we also see about one more question asked by the job seeker, and in some cases, they might just not feel comfortable asking a question that maybe they perceive as not the question. They don't want to look bad in front of a person. So that could be another thing. There's a lot to get those amount of words. So
Yeah. Yeah.
even the speed at which I'm speaking right now, if I'm going over 150 words per minute to a human, if English is a second language, which is very common in hourly, cognition will go down. They'll disengage a little bit. So you have more control to have like a ideal conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously it's still not a human experience, which is very important as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. Steph, I want to get your take on something that we wrote about this a little bit in one of
Uh-huh.
the recent articles. We'll put the links in the show notes to the articles. But it was framed around when the interview and the assessment kind of disagree with each other,
Uh-huh.
meaning if someone interviews poorly,
Uh-huh.
but then they demonstrate really strong job skills in that assessment,
Uh-huh.
which carries more weight for you?
Yeah, I think we see, for us as, when we get the candidate in our place, what's different from the AI interviewer, which is, to Prem's point, is like it really tries to address everybody in a funnel. When we get them into the assessment, it's more of a situational assessment. So they're actually talking to virtual customers. And the difference is that the candidate, I just interviewed someone for we're hiring from SDRs and BDRs. And it says, I really appreciated the experience because it allowed me to demonstrate my skills. And when you're doing that, this is where the skills assessments comes in. We're measuring, acoustic features. There's a whole bunch of frameworks. So I think this is really the difference. What is better? I think you can't live without the other. They complement each other. As you know, assessments is really focused, but I think complementing each other. We don't do cultural fit. We don't do like past work history. These are all important in the job. And I think that part of the AI interview does an incredible job at.
Yeah. Prem, do you have any thoughts on that one?
No, I agree, and I think really you have to get folks the right thing at the right time. Once they're bought in, and you're bought in, getting to know them better makes a lot of sense. And I think one beauty of technology and what we're seeing with AI is, in the past, the reason why there's less people in each step is because a hiring manager can't meet with 4,000 people. But if you can get everyone through all the steps and assess them on the totality of what they bring through the process, then you don't have the person that's just bad on the phone, but maybe they scored well elsewhere in a traditional process. They might not ever get to the next piece. So I think technology in general can help us scale a full set of evaluations. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that stat back to where you're talking about, like people interview poorly and do well, and vice versa. Is that as consistent with AI interviewers? I would suspect probably not. But I don't have the data. I'd have to ask Prem about that. I know in a human interview, that is true. Like we see that AI interviewer is like, I think some people are much more comfortable with that process, but something for Prem to dig into. I haven't analyzed it.
We'll have to give him some homework. So I have to come back.
Yeah.
you got like 7 days, come back with the answer. So, but this is kind of a good segue. And another point that I wanted to kind of, to ask, because it's nice that we have both of you on the call. Are we moving towards a hiring process in which every applicant feeling as if they're being genuinely considered, or is it they just understand that everyone's kind of going through the process more efficiently now because of technology? And this question comes from a conversation that I had. This is probably till a month ago. We were at SHRM. And one of the interviews that we did was around technology in the interview process. And it was almost like the person that we were speaking with is almost like they were saying it's almost a false sense of caring to the candidate, meaning the organizations were feeling like they genuinely care about these candidates because they're going through all of these interviews, when in reality the candidates on the other side understand it's not them caring, it's technology making it more efficient. And so I'm curious to kind of get your take, Prem, if you want to jump in on that first.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really good point. And I do think a lot of it does depend on how it's implemented, how it comes across, what you're communicating to the job seeker. But the starting point, if we think about where we're starting from, job seekers are almost coming out of a abusive relationship with the job market. Like they're being ignored nonstop. That's why, like Steph was saying, and we see this even with our chat bot, where people are like, "Oh, thank you. I feel like the company really wants to get to know me because we're actually letting them talk about themselves." And if that's the starting point, to maintain that trust and move beyond a cycle of abuse, it requires actually making that real. And there's a few ways of making that real. So like we believe in an outcome for every seeker. That's not that you get the job, but can you use what they told you to suggest other jobs that are similar? Can you be very clear with them up front that this is you're not moving on, and maybe here's a little bit about why. So I think the more we get to know them, the better we can then process to a next step. In high volume, it might just be the case, hey, they don't have a driver's license right now, so they can't do this job that requires driving. If nothing happens after that, you might not gain trust. But if they get a message in a month saying, hey, you said do you have your license now because we have these jobs, I think there's ways of making the caring authentic, because you're right. We don't want it to come across as, okay, now that we can do this so cheaply, everyone just gets this and nothing happens after that. That's where it could fail.
Yeah. Steph, I'm curious to get your take, because a lot of people in these conversations that we're having on the recruiting side, we'll just say in the business, their take is almost like they don't care. They're just like, you know what, does it really matter? We're pushing them through the process. They're getting access now to a potential career, whereas before we would have just left them or let them be because we couldn't get to it. I'm curious to get your take on that.
Well, I think that, before this technology is deployed, you hear a lot of jaded candidates who just give up on the job market because, you're not even giving an opportunity. Back to that BDR person who, these people were hiring, they all went through the process. And we had some very interesting hiring signals for them. And a lot of them would have been ignored in the past. CV screening tools. They was simply not we ended up hiring some people who we probably would have not hired in the past. But their hiring signals, the skills that they demonstrated by the process, all of a sudden so we hear this now. Are we doing enough as companies to give more feedback and more insight into the skills they have and don't have? I think there's a huge opportunity for that, because, mankind always want to improve. So if we leave them out dry, sorry, you didn't get the job, and we don't let them know why, then I think, technology is an opportunity to keep on evolving on this, because we are collecting tons of signals. We do have idea of where they fit in and where they don't fit. Could be basic driver's license, could be they're not good at listening. So it may be a wide variety of skills.
And I was just going to very briefly say, I think if we can eventually get to a world where each company is doing is getting to know that person better, and you don't have to fill out all the basic stuff. If you're able to basically interview once or twice a year, and then that same information goes out to each company to then get to know you individually better, that would be a better world. But
and so I was going to bring this up a question or two ago, but Prem, you brought me back to it. there was I can't think of the name of this company, and I'll have to go back and research it. They were doing career passports almost,
Yeah.
where, you know, whether it was the resume, the interview, or skills assessment, or they were getting performance reviews within the company that they were working for, they built a passport. And that passport they take with them when they leave, and they build this resume per se, but they were trying to avoid the resume. And when you go to another opportunity, you can then share that passport with them. And I forget what they call this, career passport, something to that effect. But it had access to kind of like your transcripts. It had access to your reviews, access to, references, access to your career history and work that you've done along the way. And this is what you're both talking about. I feel as if this kind of gets us there, where Prem, your example of, hey, you don't have a driver's license 3 months from now. Were you able to get that? And maybe helping them along the way. Like, here's, if it's just paperwork and process, here's where you need to go in your local area. And Steph, to your point, if you're validating all of these skills, you know what the job market is, right? I mean, you've got thousands of customers. There's no reason why you couldn't at some point have, or somebody have, a pipe of candidates for clients to potentially take a look at. Different business, but different outcomes that you can build for the candidates. This is more futuristic, this question. And Steph, let's start with you on this one. I'm going to keep it high volume, and I'm going to give the crystal ball to you. Yeah. So in, I hate saying 10 years, 5 years time, but in the future, where is high volume? Where is it going to be completely automated?
Yeah, I have a difficulty not believing that the whole hiring stack will not be fully automated, and especially in high volume. We're already working with some Fortune 50 customers who, we're very data driven, and our customers are very data driven, and the data that really moves them is the quality of hire. And depending on the type of role that may be, it could be retention, it could be absenteeism, revenue. And we already know by optimizing these AI tools, these skills based, that you can end up with better outcomes, less biased hires that really meet your business objectives. We're already seeing this today. And I think that, imagine in 10 years, I don't know. I think 10 years, you'll be coming back to what you were saying, that you're going to have a really holistic passport of that candidate as they accumulate skills throughout their career, be educational, be through their jobs, that will follow them around. Yeah. So especially with AI is taking over so many jobs, like, these skills, these critical thinking, judgment skills will become much more.
Yeah. So I'm going to build on that real quick. Could the skills data that you're collecting during that hiring process, could that follow someone into onboarding, into coaching, internal mobility throughout the entire workforce planning process? Is that something that you're seeing clients do today?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have some prototypes in front of me, but that's exactly what we're doing, because, we're looking at the hiring stack, how that is, been very human evaluated. But then as we're going through, we're collecting all kinds of signals through technology. So therefore, are you collaborative? Do you have difficulty dealing with certain situations? And we have customers who assess, especially in the high volume hiring, we're looking at specific role. There's a training aspect. So we'll measure before training, we'll measure after training, then we'll measure at 90 days. And then we're going to, these not these inferred skills, these measured skills turn into hiring signals, back into hiring signals. And the interesting about skills is, like, Prem, what you've mentioned, is that they're not static. Like, as companies evolve, the skills you need also evolve. And I think you need a whole living system that completely improves itself, of course, with the human that's overseeing this, because you can't let the AI run wild.
Yeah. So Prem, I wanted to ask you this. What belief about AI in hiring today sounds completely radical, that is going to be just completely obvious by, we'll say 2030. And I think back to the reason I'm asking this is we had a recording earlier last week where we got into mobile recruiting. You remember back in like 2007 when this stuff happened, it's like, we're going to be mobile recruiting and all of this, and which happened. And it did happen, not in the way that I think people were expecting it, where you're on a train using your phone and doing all the things that recruiters were doing at that time. But what's radical today where it's like, yeah, no, this is just table stakes at this point.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is the whole game of applying to a ton of different jobs and then each individual company using keywords to kind of see who they want to talk to more. I do think that
Mhm.
will start to go away, and you will have more of an established
Yeah.
passport or whatever you might call it. So it's a little bit more of a
Mhm.
jobs find you stuff that's already matched. I mean,
Right.
I talked to like a company like Checker, and there's some things that you can probably just get before even making it to the final round. And maybe if you committed a crime in between that when you did the check and when you get the job, there might be another background check. But I think a lot of this stuff can just be done once. I think one thing that will challenge our minds and thinking is I don't think humans are always delivering a more human experience. I think it's assumed that just because a human's doing it, that means you're delivering a more human experience. When you break that down, someone junior that's just going through the motions, call after call, might not be getting to know you as much as technology. I think that just like we saw with chatbots, where early on the experiences were pretty crappy. There was an article saying that Microsoft's chatbot Tay turned into a racist asshole within. Sorry, I don't know. Within clearly, the people have now gotten value out of it through
Yeah. Yeah.
LMs and whatnot. So I do think that after we get past this phase where there's a lot of vendors that are simply building thin layers on LLMs and putting something that demos well out there, and that's going to create distrust.
Yeah.
But we'll get beyond that to stuff that actually works. And when we get there, I do think now the fully automated scenarios start to feel better for both
Yeah.
sides. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the, and I can share a story. This is more of a customer service story. I was buying some piece of technology as a microphone or something for one of our setups. The company I was talking with, it was an AI salesperson. And so we're in the business. I'm going to play this. I'm going to do this game because it's fun. And after it wasn't like the Verizon experience where you talk and it doesn't understand you. It understood me. It didn't cut me off if I stopped talking. It waited until it was like time for me. I was clearly finished with my thought, but it didn't have the product. They didn't have the product. And it didn't what was interesting for me is that it didn't say it's not in stock. We'll have it in 3 weeks. It said, we don't have this. However, you can look at these companies. I found one that's available in stock here. What's your zip code? And then it helped me actually go to a different company to make that purchase. And I didn't buy it through a link or anything. I didn't get any affiliate commissions or partner referrals or anything like that. I don't know that the AI is supposed to do that, but it was a great experience, right? Like I didn't buy it from the company. I went somewhere else. However, it was a great experience for me. And I think if we can get there, that would be fantastic in the hiring process. Steph, question I have for you is, if a company's going to put this process together of AI interviewing and skills assessment, there's potential risk, there's potential downfalls, and kind of craters they can fall into. What is it that they need to look for or look out for to avoid?
Yeah, I think, it has to be a uniform experience and things to down for, making sure that you know what each tool and the specific purpose of each tool,
Mm-hmm.
and that the data from each tool is really meeting your business objectives. I think that's really,
Yeah.
focusing on those two things. We know that the AI interviews are very good at getting to everybody. They're very good at screening for the core skills you're looking for. And the assessment is really digging, once you've got past that, then the AI, the screener is just more into very much skills that you've aligned with your
Yeah.
company. So I think is really looking at a uniform and making the candidate experience as as smooth as possible. So those are the things I would look for.
Yeah. So I've one more question, Prem. I'll start with you on this one. So let's just say company goes in, they're all in, they stack both of these together, which makes complete sense in my opinion. But let's just say a year after they implemented this, what should they be able to prove that it couldn't prove before to show success?
Yeah, and hopefully it doesn't take a year, but yeah, so sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think it would. I think it would probably take a lot less than a year.
Yeah, I know that was just an example, but so I think a lot of it depends on what your goals are. Ideally, candidate conversion, candidate experience, time to hire should be reduced. But at the end of the day, you're getting the right folks in, and they're retained and staying with you.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's Seth brought up in skills, it's real, and you asked about going beyond just making the hire. We see too is when someone you don't know what you need until you know what you're losing, and if we're just saying, okay, we lost 5 SDE ones, but what you're really losing is a combination of a lot of skills like communication skills and
Of all 5, yeah.
so I think the more we get into skills base, the easier it's going to be able to even quantify, are we filling our skills gaps in the right way? And is AI interviewer actually helping us get on that journey to get there by engaging the right people to then get into a deeper analysis?
So with all of this knowledge and that we're gaining through this stack, in your example, we get rid of or we lose 5 SDE1s. We're not just losing 5. We're losing a combination of those skills stacked together, which might not be the need for 5 additional SDE1s. It could be 2. It could be 2 different people at a different level. And so I think it's important for us to really kind of understand that stuff. I want to get your final take on this as well. How do we prove that we were successful at this?
Yeah, I think that, you make that part of your project and you can start measuring it at 90 days. Typically most corporate, most large, high volume hiring measure things at 90 days. Are you getting better outcomes at 90 days with your employees? Is your time to onboard, has it reduced? Are they being productive after that 90 days? Or are they falling within your benchmarks or quartiles? I think from our customers, we see that at 90 days, and we're already making an impact at 90 days. And then it's when typically when they get the aha moment, it's like, oh my God, I've been approaching this all wrong. And it's really amazing. So I think that's really where you need to go. Align with your business objectives.
Yeah, gentlemen, this has been fantastic. We learned a lot. I'm sure the audience is going to get a lot out of it. So thank you very much for joining us today. And to the audience, we'll see you next time.